If you're even slightly a basketball fan, you've probably seen or heard these rumors countless times already, and I for one am sick of this roller coaster. One day it's Giannis wants out from the shackles of Milwaukee, another day it's the Bucks' turn to hit the market and see what they can acquire, and it's really just this ongoing cycle of frustration building, because the Bucks and Giannis have not been experiencing playoff success. Like bro, this is just maddening. How you got one of the best players in the history of the sport, might I add, and have this type of record to show for it. I mean, I guess they do have a ring, so I can't give them too much heat. But outside that one year where the finals MVP should have gone to Kevin Durant's toe, I feel pretty confident saying that the Giannis Bucks era overall has been slightly underwhelming. And this summer seemed like we were finally getting a divorce. But here we are once again, back at square one. Kinda like Batman vs. Joker, like they clearly need to get rid of each other, but just can't for some reason. Nobody had any expectations for this Bucks team with their worst supporting cast since I guess the Larry Sanders days, but something very strange is happening right now, because the Bucks are actually looking pretty good. I'm actually invested in their season again, and if you were hypothetically someone foolish enough to fall for this trap as well, it wouldn't be because of Giannis. It would be because of another guy in this roster, who's breaking out in a historic way, unlike anything we've ever seen before. The man who never should have been given the responsibility of saving this franchise, but he's done exactly that. So allow me to introduce to you guys a man who goes by the name Ryan Rollins, and let's do a breakdown on how he's changed everything for this team. The story of Ryan Rollins starts in McCobb, Michigan, a place where, according to TripAdvisor, the top attraction is the movie theater. Rollins came out of Dakota High School as a zero-star recruit with just one college offer despite putting up very solid numbers. So his decision wasn't exactly dramatic. Toledo was the only school that believed in him, so that's exactly where he packed his bags and went. But Toledo saw something in him that everyone else had overlooked. Their head coach remembered watching Rollins and immediately telling his staff, "Fellas, this is a must-get. He's gonna be a pro," and raved about how Rollins was long, smooth, effortless, and making the game look simple, even as a youngin'. Toledo believed in him so much that Rollins walked in as a skinny freshman and immediately became the starting point guard, and he took this opportunity and exploded, putting up strong numbers and winning MAC Freshman of the Year. Talk about a come-up. From under-recruited high school kid to college standout, Rollins didn't just meet expectations, because he went far and beyond that. And after another dominant season, he'd proven enough to take the next leap, declaring for the NBA draft.
Toledo sophomore Ryan Rollins declared for the NBA draft Thursday in a statement on Twitter.
It was a dream since I can remember, so probably since I came out the womb, honestly.
He is a legitimate NBA prospect. I think he's a first rounder on my board.
Rollins was a late bloomer as a prospect, but teams remained skeptical about how his game would hold up against pro competition. After all, he did play in the MAC, a smaller conference compared to the powerhouse programs most top prospects came from. And there were two major things that signaled red flags for teams. Number one, he did not consistently show even at the MAC level that he was a consistent jump shooter. And number two is that teams didn't think he was a good enough athlete at the position. So rim pressure and defense could be a huge issue, which was fair concern. I mean, Rollins shot just 31% from 3 on low volume in college. And as a small guard, that could easily make or break his chances of sticking in a rotation. His inconsistent defensive effort also overshadowed his natural playmaking, which hurt his case as a reliable role player. But Rollins always believed that he'd figure it out.
Even if I don't have the ball, I play defense, I play hard. I think I do a lot of things to win. I'm from a mid-major, so I'm always going to have a little sleeper title, but I think I proved in the workouts and the stuff that I'm one of the better players in the draft. I think so.
In 2022, Ryan Rollins was selected 44th overall and traded to the Golden State Warriors, where it seemed like he'd be buried on the bench behind Steph Curry in a championship roster, building on the already steep odds stacked against him. And as expected, Rollins' career started off about as rough as it could have. He appeared in just 12 games for the Warriors, averaging 5.2 minutes and 1.9 points, basically less than a single made shot per game, which is about as much as you and I are putting up watching from home. And to make matters worse, he suffered a season-ending injury that essentially made him expendable to the Warriors, a team focused on chasing another championship and with little time or patience to develop a long-term project. So heading into his sophomore year, the Warriors front office saw little value left in Rollins and used him as a throw-in to land what they believed was the final piece of their championship puzzle. And I guess that piece was a 37-year-old Chris Paul. Rollins was tossing the deal like a fantasy football trade, where you send an extra bench guy just to sweeten the deal a little bit. But on paper, Washington seemed like the perfect place for Rollins to get a fresh start, a rebuilding team full of young players on his timeline, and in need of a point guard. But the Wizards never really gave him a fair chance. He averaged just 6.6 minutes and 4.1 points, and it was obvious from the start they were not planning to invest in him, especially after what came next.
Hey, man. Why are Ryan Rollins really in target wilding like that, man? What he on, bro?
Why he stealing? I think that's a genetic trait.
What, stealing?
Stealing. Because this ain't no way. It's something. His mama was a stealer. His daddy was a stealer. And that shit got to him.
Stealer is crazy. Just say thief.
I'm not going to make any harsh statements here. We never really know the full story. But it's fair to say that if you're an NBA player making millions, stealing from Target probably isn't the smartest move. It was a costly mistake that Rollins had to learn the hard way, as Washington cut their ties with him pretty soon after. This was rock bottom for Ryan, and at that point, most people figured his NBA career was over. The only kind of team that might take a chance on a player with no track record and off-court baggage is one on the brink of falling apart themselves.
Are we serious right now? Is Giannis serious right now? This was a complete failure by the Milwaukee Bucks.
There are constant questions surrounding this organization as it relates to...
Having said that, L, I honestly believe that Giannis is looking for reasons to stay in Milwaukee.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, and the Bucks took a flyer on Rollins, hoping for a spark to keep their contender around Giannis afloat. After showing flashes and finally cracking the rotation last season, Milwaukee rewarded him with a contract extension, banking on him as a low-cost depth piece to bolster their roster. And the plan for Rollins was to fill a backup guard role with the sudden departure of Damian Lillard, but this season he's taken a leap that no one saw coming. Early on, Rollins has made a legitimate case for most improved player, with the numbers backing up his rise as the Bucks' new second option. And while the box score tells part of the story, the film and advanced stats paint the full picture. I mean, Rollins has gone from an end-of-the-bench scrub to playing at a near all-star level this season. So just how dominant has he been? Well, let's take a look.
Giannis, with spacing all around him, is by far the hardest thing to match up for now that Ryan Rollins looks like an actual stud. Like, the fact that you have Rollins, who seems like a real guard, like a real, like, top 100 player in the league guard.
Probably the most significant contributor to Ryan Rollins' breakout is that his finishing ability is right up there amongst the best in the league. Plus, he's currently leading the entire NBA in field goal percentage from less than 5 feet from the basket at 88%, over guys like Giannis, over guys like Wemby, and over guys like Jokic. And his floater percentage right now is 11th in the league amongst guards, shooting 53.9%. This was one of the areas scouts expected Rollins to struggle in. Despite being an excellent finisher in college, teams questioned whether he could consistently get to the rim and replicate that success at the NBA level. And so far, Rollins has proven these doubts wrong. And there are two major reasons why. First, while Rollins doesn't have the explosive bursts of other elite drivers, he makes up ground with a freakish 6'10" wingspan, and he knows exactly how to use it. His length allows him to extend over defenders and finish from angles most guards simply can't reach, turning that wingspan into one of his biggest offensive weapons. For example, here he does a great job getting to his spot downhill, and then as Barrett seems to close off that driving angle, Rollins can reach to the other side of the rim for a spectacular finish. And then here against his former team, after he penetrates with Draymond coming over to show help, he's able to stretch through two defenders and use those long arms to scoop over the outstretched contest. He's a super underrated and crafty finisher that knows how to manipulate defenses to help him score easier. Perfect example here, as he shows the ball to the defense and takes his delayed stride, he can then finish the play with a nice little mini skyhook. Kareem would be so proud. And secondly, Rollins makes up for his lack of elite athleticism with great poise and pace control. For example, watch these plays and count how many times he changes speed to throw his defender off bounce.
For the Knicks here, Rollins to the right, to the basket, neck. Some guys have to get long rebounds. I think Khan's got that neck. He's not always getting these.
All 5 bench players. The big defensive give us like 120 points per 100 possessions, but only generating like.
This combination of length, timing, and craftiness makes it no surprise why he's among the league leaders at scoring at the rim. But this is not the only area of Rollins' game where his length gives him a massive boost, because defensively, he's also super adept at using his physical tools to create problems. Looking at the advanced numbers, Rollins has been incredible this year, with the biggest takeaway being he's an absolute menace as a defensive playmaker, in passing lanes and creating turnovers. And it really only takes about 2 seconds of film to deduce that.
And the takeaway by Rollins! Hey! Even if it's not your man, step in front of the ball and stop.
Right now, especially Luka and Reeves.
I'm sure page 1 of every scouting report says it in bold. Do not pass the ball around this guy. But what's even more impressive to me is how Rollins uses his length as an elite on-ball defender. He can poke the ball away from bigger players, hound smaller guards with quick hands, and mix up his defensive moves. This is a good possession where he's picking up his man at half court, and those long arms allow him to go behind Schroeder to pick his pocket, and that's all she wrote going the other way. And on defense, those arms are also super useful in terms of recovering on any sort of mishaps he has. He gambles for the steal here, but because of his length, he's able to stay in range and poke the ball loose, even though it looks like his man has a step on him. But my favorite possession that showcases his defensive ability is this one, as he once again is picking up full court, and tries for that first steal and misses, and then flips his hips into a sprint so that quickly doesn't have an angle anymore, and then caps it off by keeping his hand up to deflect a pass going outside. Finishing and defense are definitely the strengths of Ryan Rollins' game, but the real reason why he's earned a consistent rotation spot, and the biggest improvement since his college days, is his shooting. Because none of this breakout would even matter if he were still the same inconsistent jump shooter he once was. Coming out of the draft, Rollins slid because teams were scared of his low 3-point percentage, but that has completely flipped with the Bucks. Credit to whoever their shooting coach is, because Rollins has turned into an elite shooter over the past 2 seasons. He's taking more threes this year while keeping the same high efficiency, and the biggest leap by far has been his off-the-dribble shooting. It wasn't always smooth for Rollins, because last season he shot just 27% on pull-up 3-pointers. But this year that number has skyrocketed. He's improved so much that off-the-dribble shooting is starting to look like a real strength, despite the volume still catching up to his ability. This was never a key part of his game, but he's quietly added those pull-up jumpers from all over the floor, making him a complete offensive player. Lastly, let's talk about the part of Rollins' game that has been his bread and butter since day one, his playmaking. On a Bucks team that desperately needs another creator, they've been super blessed to have Rollins be able to fill the void. I mean, they can't just depend on Thanasis out there. They've needed real offensive organization, and Rollins has completely changed his team's dynamic in that regard. On a points per possession basis, among players who run at least 5 ball screens per game, he currently ranks 3rd in the NBA, and his overall productivity in those situations sits in the 94th percentile. In short, Rollins is playmaking at an all-star level right now, which is pretty insane. He shows great patience in the pick and roll, never looks rushed by the defense, and can make every pass from every angle on the floor. This pass, for instance, he throws a one-footed skip over 3 defenders collapsing on Giannis for a wide open kickout, and then here kind of the same action, and this is going to be critical for the Bucks. With Giannis rolling and taking all that attention, Rollins might be the only player who can see the pass on the other side, and the chemistry between these two guys will just continue to grow over the course of the season. And this team knows they're only going to go as far as their superstar takes them, and so far Rollins has done an excellent job enhancing that superstar to his best ability. So the moral of the story is simple. When the Bucks and Giannis were running out of answers, the Ryan Rollins breakout came at the perfect time. What started as a feel-good story has now turned into something bigger, because Giannis might have a true second option he can trust. And suddenly, Milwaukee looks ready to make some noise in a wide open Eastern Conference. I'm fully engaged on this team now, because there's an old saying, when a miracle shows up, you do whatever you can do to follow it. And right now, that miracle is Ryan Rollins, a star who seemed to appear out of nowhere. And I'm excited to see how the rest of the year unfolds.